Allow me to pose a question. Let's close your eyes and let's take a step back in time. Try to recall where you were and what you're doing on Wednesday, August 28, 2008. Just to be clear, it's not my kid's birthday, nor is it my wedding anniversary. On that day, I was at the world-renowned Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing, China, preparing for the most pivotal moment of my athletic career. I was getting ready to race against the great Usain Bolt, the world's fastest man, in an Olympic 200-meter dash final. How did a 5'6" kid from Zimbabwe end up on a grand stage like this? How was I going to react in my David versus Goliath moment? To help you understand, let me take you on a journey back in time. The year is 1998, and I'm a high school junior. With only one loss in 5 years, I'm a sure bet to win anytime I step on the track. I just finished dominating in the 100-meter and 200-meter dash races, and as I'm walking off the track, I notice a figure walking towards me. As it gets closer and closer, I realize who it is. It is Mitch, my high school captain from 8th grade. Mitch walks up to me, and we exchange pleasantries, and immediately tells me that I have the talent level to pursue track and field on a much higher level. This is a great honor and compliment coming from somebody like Mitch, as he was somebody I looked up to growing up. And it is in that moment the initial seed is planted that I could pursue track and field on a collegiate level. Mitch and I exchange emails, and we go our separate ways, but that chance encounter resonates with me until we connect 10 years later. Little did I know that brief conversation was going to change the course of my life forever. Mitch had planted a seed. But what is a seed without action? A seed without action is potential that has not yet been realized. I took that seed that Mitch gave me and applied to schools in the United States. That small action landed me at Truman State University. Truman State University offered me a partial academic and a partial athletic scholarship for a total of $6,000, and my parents only had to pay out of pocket $1,000 plus my room and board. The head track coach at Truman State University was a man called Coach Ed Schneider. I had picked up a phone from Zimbabwe and called Coach Schneider and told him that I was coming to his institution and asked him if he had any additional scholarship money. And that simple phone call, that simple action, had landed me that scholarship. I arrived at Truman State University in Kirksville, Missouri, and boy, is that place in the middle of nowhere. This was the first time in my life I had been that far away from home, and this only made me homesick, and I was looking for a parental figure. Coach Ed became that father figure. In fact, every Monday morning, I'll stop by Coach Ed's office, and we'll talk about my performances from the previous weekend and discuss the little things that I had to do that week in practice to prepare for my next race. This led to the strengthening of the bond between Coach Ed and I, and this became a Monday morning routine. As the year went by and the summertime came around, it was time for me to leave. My plan was to go to London and live with my sister for the summer, and my main goal was to work as hard as I could and save as much money as I could because I wanted to remove all financial burden from my parents because Zimbabwe was going through economic hardship. A few days before I was supposed to leave for the summer, I decided to go see Coach Ed again like a typical Monday morning routine. As I walked into Coach Ed's office, he could tell that there was something that was bothering me. We exchanged pleasantries, and I immediately told Coach Ed that there was a 90% chance that I wasn't coming back. It was becoming increasingly difficult for my parents in Zimbabwe to keep supporting me financially. The look in his face was one of total shock. How could this kid who was an All-American athlete really not consider coming back? How could this kid who had broken so many school records not want to come back to this institution? I walked out of Coach Ed's office not knowing what to expect. The very next day, Coach Ed called me and offered me a full scholarship. I took a small action, which was showing up at Coach Ed's office every Monday morning, and I was consistent with that action. And that consistency turned into routine. And that routine led to the development of a stronger bond between Coach Ed and I. And that ultimately played a role in him offering me a full scholarship. We all have seeds that require us to take action. And action requires routine. Routine requires consistency. And that consistency is what will allow us to reap the harvest. After 2 years at Truman State University, I decided to transfer to the big boys, and I went to Florida State University, where I was met with high expectations and an immense amount of pressure. I struggled a great deal in my junior year, and I started to hear whispers and murmurs about how I wasn't deserving of the full scholarship. Truthfully speaking, the pressure starts to get to me, and the mind games start creeping in. Going to my senior year, I make a decision. I am going to enjoy every race like it's my last. I am going to savor every moment with my teammates because I know that this is all coming to an end. I decide to have fun. What is fun? Fun is an acronym that stands for flourishing under no pressure. It is the ability to thrive and develop in a positive way without feeling stressed or overwhelmed by external expectations or demands. Due to that shift in mindset in my senior year, where every race and competition were fun, I run extremely well. In my very first race of the outdoor season in 2004, I ran the fastest time I had run in 4 years. Not only was this a personal best time, it was an Olympic A qualifying standard. I had arrived, I was having fun, I was going to be an Olympic athlete. What happens when we stop having fun? The pressure starts to kick in, and we start to worry about those things which we cannot control. In the sport on track and field, they teach you to focus on your lane because that is the only thing that you can control. How can you take control of your lane? You need to have a plan. A plan gives you the guidance and the framework which allows you to understand the small tasks and actions you need to take to achieve your dreams and goals. How many of us walk through life without a plan? Being an Olympic athlete was never part of my plan. It just happened. I arrived at the Athens Olympic Games as the 7th fastest man in the world in the 200-meter dash, and I was expected to make the final and compete for a podium position. But guess what? I didn't make it past the second round. Why is that? It wasn't part of my plan to make it that far. But guess what too? The future Olympic champion, Usain Bolt, also didn't make it past the second round. I recall watching that final from the Olympic Stadium, sitting in the nosebleeds, and taking a few minutes after that race to soak in what was happening in the moment as I watched the top 3 athletes take their lap of honor and watch the rest of the finalists gracefully exit the track. And have a sense of sadness because I knew that I was supposed to be on that track that evening. I felt this raging fire light up inside of me, telling me that I wanted to know what it felt like to be an Olympic finalist. The very next day, I sat down with my coach Ken, and we talked about what we could have done differently to prepare for that moment. What small actions could we have taken that would have given me a legitimate shot at making that Olympic final? It was then that I decided that I am going to commit to a 4-year plan that is going to give me a legitimate shot at making the next Olympic final. I am committing to taking small, consistent actions compounded over 1,460 days to chase my dream. I am going to train for 1,460 days, 35,000 hours, 208 weeks, and 2 million minutes to prepare for 4 races that last a grand total of 80 seconds. How was I going to achieve that? That's the easy part. I had to find my edge. My edge was going to be my ability to show up every day with great execution through my small actions. During that 1,460-day cycle, I made sure that I showed up every day. Whether it was the way I ate, the way I slept, the way I trained in the weight room, or the way I trained on the track. I was always trying to find the incremental gain since track and field is a sport of margins, and I knew that edge was going to make a difference. In the same way that I was trying to find that edge in my quest for Olympic glory, you too can find your edge as you try to seek and achieve your goals in your daily life. It was a long and winding road, and I knew that it was always going to be difficult. And I knew that I had to stick to my plan because I had made a commitment to my plan. Throughout this whole journey, I had to consistently remind myself to have fun because that would allow me to flourish under no pressure. The hard work started to pay off, and in 2007, in my very first race of the outdoor season, I ran an Olympic qualifying standard. I arrived at the Beijing Olympics as one of the top 20 athletes in the world in the 200-meter dash. I was having a career year on the European circuit, and my confidence was at an all-time high. Due to my enhanced profile on the European circuit, I was bestowed one of the greatest honors any athlete could ever get. I was asked to be the flag bearer for my country of Zimbabwe. On August 26, 2008, I ran my first 2 qualifying races, and through those first 2 rounds, I had the fastest times out of all the athletes. This was a major confidence booster, and I knew that at this point, I only had to execute well in one more race to qualify for the final. On August 27, 2008, I ran my semi-final race, and I placed second to Sharandi Martina. That was good enough to place me in the Olympic final. The great Usain Bolt, the same man who hadn't qualified past the second round 4 years earlier, also qualified for that Olympic final. On August 28, 2008, I, Berwyn Dzingai, the 5'6" kid from Zimbabwe, competed in a historic, world record-breaking Olympic final against the great Usain Bolt and came 4th place. 1,460 days later, I was an Olympic finalist. My plan had been executed to perfection because of the small actions that I had taken. People ask me all the time if I'm disappointed about not making the top 3. My simple answer is no. The sport of track and field gave me a free education. It gave me an ability to travel to over 40 different countries and granted me the opportunity to be a 2-time Olympic athlete. As I went through this journey, I had to find ways to celebrate the micro victories. And this led me to the development of something called return on sweat. This is my way of measuring the value of my time and effort invested through my small actions. The return on sweat takes into account the beneficial impact as a factor of your time and effort invested through your small actions. This is very similar to the concept in finance called ROI, which stands for return on investment. As you go through your life journey, try to make sure that you're having fun, because that is the only way that you will continue to flourish under no pressure. And make sure that you attack every day with great execution, because that is your edge. But most important of all, make sure that you hold yourself accountable by measuring your return on sweat. These 3 principles are the primary reason why I'm standing here in front of you today. Thank you.